On this episode of AV Week, getting to zero carbon emissions in the industry, meeting equity in your hybrid spaces, and VR in AV. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 546, recorded Friday, February 4th, 2022. All together now.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Peerless AV, driving technology through innovation.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have together this week, first and foremost, an incredible young lady in the AV industry. Her name is Corey Schaefer. She's with QSC. Welcome, ma'am.
Hey, thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be here with these other guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. Corey is in beautiful Santa Barbara. I am in cold and snowy St. Louis. So that's just get that out of there. Somebody else who did not also see snow this week, Mike Brown Sestero. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you for having me. I am in equally beautiful but income tax free Las Vegas.
So that was like, yeah, very nice. So so somebody who also has more income taxes than me. Akin Adewale. Akin is in New Jersey from Barracks. Welcome, sir.
I'm in the cold over here.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm in the cold. Actually, it's pretty warm today.
Relative though, because Jersey, you guys got hit with the same kind of snow front that we did too.
Yeah, we got about 8 inches a few days ago, but it's not too bad.
So how warm is it? Is it 6 degrees or?
It's like low 40s. It's raining outside right now.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so our low today is 1, right?
Oof.
So I think our high is 9 today. So
wow. Now
by next week we're in the 40s and it'll be fine, and you know.
Tim wins.
It's not
right, definitely.
Yeah. I mean we're currently sunny and 49 and headed towards 57, so
which means people in Vegas have hoodies on.
Yes. Yeah, I got the fire going right now.
Yeah. All right, that's enough of our weather talk today. Although I saw something on Tuesday or Wednesday. This storm that hit Akin and I hit like 30% of the U.S. Something like 30. It was like 100 million people, 22 states. It was from New Mexico all the way up to Maine. Apparently, is what it was this week. So yeah, quite interesting. So, all right. That's your weather talk for today. Today's top story comes to us from our friends over at My Tech Decisions. Logitech's Right Site 2 helps hybrid meetings create hybrid meetings that are more equitable for remote workers. Equitable meetings is one of those things that keeps coming up and we keep talking about because as workers go back into the office, there are still some that are not going to go, or you're going to go on a different schedule of the whole hybrid working. And one of the things, according to this article, says that the Right Site 2, which is compatible with Logitech's their cloud-based video conferencing partners, it uses audio and video intelligence to detect placement and voices of in-room participants, and then leverages the 2-camera system in the company's Rally Bar to produce a speaker view, meaning that it will bounce back and forth with whoever is talking and kind of zoom in and give you a close-up of whoever's speaking. I've seen this a couple different other places that have that tried to zoom in on things or zoom in on a specific area. If you're looking at a conference table and someone brings out a physical object, there are systems that will go out there and they'll zoom in on the object. If you're doing this, that, and the other. Corey, I want to start with you on this. Equitable meetings is, an area where we're trying to make this easy. We're trying to make it interactive. We're also trying to bring in the hybrid worker because whether you're one person in a conference room or you're 10, those remote folks kind of be brought in. Whether it's camera technology or audio technology, how are we best able to do that?
Actually, I think it's with both, and we're seeing Poly and Logi and others work on that camera side, and then we're seeing a lot of us audio companies or traditional audio companies focus on the audio, having the camera follow who's talking. I think this is a huge topic among the platform companies, whether it be Google, Zoom, or Teams, because again, like even how we're recording today, we all have our own little square, everything's equal, but the moment we then scan, and we're noticing it with QSC, with people coming back to the office and somebody talking, and it's just, you just see this big room shot, and it's just hard to stay engaged, and then think about the rooms when people are coming back, they're going to use spaces like the flex spaces, the rooms that open up to be divisible so people can still socially distance if needed, et cetera. And we need it more than ever there because we've got these larger canvases, so to speak, that we're looking, through when you're the remote party. So, it used to be, I think being remote, you didn't have the same equity as those in the actual room. And now we're seeing this quick reverse. And think about it from the higher ed perspective as well. You've got these large auditoriums, and the cool part about higher ed is this interaction that happens and being able to have the camera focus on the person that's speaking, regardless of room size. It's just what everybody's talking about. All Microsoft Zoom, all those guys, they're also offering more video feeds now in their new releases. So it used to be one USB camera, now they're 2 and 3. So it's definitely top of mind.
Well, in addition, and Kim, I want to bring you in on this as a designer and engineer for these systems. In addition to that, you've also got NDA, not NDA. Where's the
NDI?
Thank you,
NDI.
NDI.
Yeah.
Good Lord, that was very nice in stereo. the NDI systems that you can bring into these video conferencing codecs as well, right? So you've got a USB option, but you've also got NDI options as well. Akeem, take a look at this from the engineering standpoint, and you've either got existing systems that you've got to kind of augment now and you've got to add to, or you've got brand new ones, but meeting equity and making sure that your clients' employees are all kind of feeling the togetherness and
Right.
getting together. How do you do that?
I mean, well, just from a design thinking sort of standpoint, I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really about you having context when you're in these different meetings. And I definitely think that that's something that even with me joining calls remotely that I would like to see more of. If everybody's in the conference room, how can I fully participate? And so it just makes perfect sense to be able to have, the expressiveness and the nuances of somebody's face, when it gets zoomed in on, but at the same time being able to see the entire room itself, just so you can give it context. It's just more information, allows you to be more of a participant, it gives you more ownership in the actual meeting itself. And as far as the actual, the technology is concerned, in terms of having just more sources available, I don't believe that Logitech, maybe QSC has the ability to bring in an NDI feed from somewhere else. That's great to be able to kind of have that additional flexibility with being able to do that. But again, I think the main thing is just what's the experience that people kind of walk away from when they're in that meeting. And I think by having that sort of picture-in-picture view, as well as being able to get that, nonverbal communication with the way that people are expressing themselves, with their faces, I think is really what ultimately makes a difference.
And just to chime in on that, too, because we've all been working remotely now for a couple of years, we're seeing people pull in other things to engage, so you're able to see with Front Row and Smart Gallery, you can see the chat, you can see documents over here, and then the video following the person speaking, so pulling in all of those elements into the conference room and then also on the far end as well.
Absolutely. Mike, I've been in your fair city a couple of times in already this year. One of them was for CES. And Canon, of all folks, had another technology out there that took a 4K image, 4K camera, split it up into, I believe it was up to 4 different streams of the room, and one of them was taking a shot of the whiteboard, right? So that was a stream. Again, you feel like these companies are coming out, you feel like you're in the room, right? You're able to kind of bring other elements like Corey said. So is this when you're talking to clients, are you leaning more on technology? Are you leaning more on cloud based? Are you leaning more on the kind of the hardware side, right? Or is it kind of combination of all of it?
Well, and it depends a little bit on the nature of the client, too. We've recently done, we're actually in the middle of the second one, an executive boardroom for a large organization, and it's a large room. The table is 28 feet long. So we purposely, in organizations like that, quite often when we're using a PTZ camera, we will have some camera settings that are, the far end of the table, kind of halfway up the table, and then the whole table. And where a lot of executives find that useful is in being able to zoom in to the far end of the table, so it's just them or maybe 2 or 3 people on this call, and just out of camera's view is perhaps a PR person or perhaps a corporate attorney who is counseling them on, off camera, quietly, on what to say, what not to say, how to say things, or, what have you. So meeting equity, as Corey pointed out, is really interesting right now because it has flipped, right? I'm sitting here in my home office. I've got a Logitech camera. I've got a clamp light I got off of Amazon. I've got an LED bulb over here as my key light that's in an existing wall sconce with a pie pan liner as my frost filter. And I've got a Shure MV51, so I think I'm probably in this about $200 maybe, and I know I look better than a lot of meeting rooms and classrooms and stuff, and not for lack of trying, those rooms just get bigger, so the variables matter more, and there might be even more variables, right? So Logitech's right sight, I think, is super clever and could be super useful in creating some of that meeting equity where you really make the person at home or working remotely from a field office feel like they're in the main room. But I also wonder how controllable and or defeatable is that feature, because there might be people who don't want the whole room showing at any given time. I did not see the technology you were speaking of that you saw at CES, but I did see a quick blurb on it online, and I think that's really a way to go, where you can, in settings, set up this target, that target, and of course with a 4K camera, you've got 4, if you quad it, you've got 4 1080 sectors there. I think that's definitely the way to go. And some of it might even be influenced, and at least here in Vegas, I see a lot of people who expect their corporate executives, I should say, a lot of corporate executives who expect their boardroom, and now we're starting to see some of them wanting it directly in their office, a system that is comparable in features and malleability and polish as what they get when they hire a pro video crew to do like a promo video for the corporate world or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think these worlds are all converging, and I think now, as Corey pointed out, with the flip in meeting equity, the consumer world is causing the at work world to have to kind of raise their game, so to speak.
Yeah, and I'm going to just throw in one other thing that we're saying, and it's on the audio side. It's super cool. How we're doing a meeting like this, and we have these hybrid meetings, and so we have the cameras using AI and audio, et cetera, to adjust. But we're also seeing now the request to make meetings even more fun with the interactions that you get with the emojis and things like that. So when somebody does the applause, rather than just have that come on the screen, but rather have it come out of the back speakers in the room and have it be somewhat, immersive and a little bit more fun when you're actually on site. So we're getting requests like this from, all angles, audio, video, control. It's great to see.
Are you saying that we now have canned laugh tracks for corporate meetings?
Yeah.
Not laugh tracks, applause tracks.
Applause tracks. Well,
Yeah.
Because if we had laugh track, my morning meeting it's half dad jokes now at this point would be a horrible experience.
Just half?
Well, we do try to get work done, yeah. Mike, you brought up something, and I want to explore this probably offline, and I might go down this road, and that's the ability to turn off the functionality of equity. right? Turn off the ability for the remote folks to feel like they're in that room. I think that's fascinating. It's something I want to kind of explore because there's privacy concerns there, right? But there's also governance concerns there, right? So if we're having a board meeting or having a board of directors meeting, the ability to do that may be wanted, but from a governance standpoint, like an SEC standpoint, you might be able to do that. So it's a whole other thing. So, all right, our friends over at AV Network, we're doing another event with them called AVN2 the first week of April. I'll have Mitchell throw the link in on that. They write up a piece here about BizRT and BBC Sports. They're preparing a VR experience for the Olympics, the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics that are actually just kicking off now as we're recording this on Friday the 4th. Interesting setup here though, because they're using the Unreal Engine 4, which is incredibly powerful VR engine, as well as BizRT's Fusion Keyer. Keen, I'm going to start with you on this. This leads me to a question that I've had this with a young lady that hosts actually a VR show for AVNation called XR Star, Amelia Coleman. Amelia is a futurist. She does a lot of work with AV Magazine over in London. She's got a couple sessions at ISE happening in May. And it's an overarching question kind of for all three of you, but Keen, I'll start with you. Where does VR currently sit when it comes to AV? And not to get too ahead of ourselves, because COVID's taught me one thing: you can't do a 5-year plan. But maybe where is it in a year? Maybe even 2 years if you want to stretch that far. But where are we now, and where are we going?
Well, I've been talking about like VR and AR and mixed reality for the last couple of years now. I really see that there's a lot of promise in terms of what we can do to leverage all of the different components that are incorporated into, say, the metaverse, Web 3.0. Like there are some key software packages, like you mentioned, Unreal Engine. Unity is another real-time rendering engine that we can utilize today to really help us design better, to help our clients sign on the dotted line. I think in particular, when it comes to pre-visualization and simulation, there are some really, I think, amazing opportunities to develop some applications that would really allow clients to really know what it is that they're getting before they actually have it in hand. And what's really cool about it is that all of these technologies are free, right? Now, you can download Unreal Engine for free. You can, put it on a machine, that maybe you'll have to spend a few dollars to have a machine that can support it in the real-time graphics, anywhere from maybe $1,000 to $3,000, or you can even do it on your laptop, So I find that's where the value will actually lie. And I think if we're talking about VR specifically, that you don't even necessarily have to do VR. You can use these applications. You could do something that's on a 2D screen. You could do it with goggles on if you wanted to. But I think there's a real opportunity. There's not too many integrators that I see that's doing it. There's maybe just one that I've seen that's actually using VR in this way. But I think we can kind of take a lesson from what's happening in an industry that is right alongside of us. That's the architectural engineering and construction industry. They use Unreal Engine, they're using, Twin Motion, to do these architectural visuals with, people and lighting and shadows. And it's really convincing. It's photoreal. I mean, it looks amazing. And it doesn't really take much from an investment standpoint for us to start learning how to utilize these tools. So I think what it comes down is to being a bit more innovative. I think, we might be stuck a little bit in terms of the idea of what VR is supposed to be, and going back to Lawnmower Man back in the 90s. Right?
God, and that's what VR was. Lawnmower Man. Holy cow!
Oh, it's a good movie, right? It's a good movie.
Awesome movie.
So it's something that I think that if we just kind of stop for a second and look at how we can apply it to, literally today. I don't think it's necessarily something in 1 year from now. And again, just take a chapter, take a chapter out the book of what a lot of our, our colleagues are doing in industries that we work with on a regular basis: interior design, architecture, you name it. So,
I'm just going to jump in. I totally agree, and I think the benefactor to the end customer is so promising. And you think about, it's just reapplying your time in working with these customers, because often a large end user is going to want a proof of concept. This is a way to really shorten that time and for them to sell it inside as well. I think it holds a lot of promise.
I agree. And I think the interesting thing coming down the pike, and sort of what I'm hoping to see, although I don't know because there's a lot of different parties involved, but you take something like what VizRT has done, which is kind of the democratization of the technology we all read about, what they were using for Mandalorian, which on movie scale, Mandalorian was made very cost effectively, right? So if you're a big video or movie production house, then, investing a few $1 million in a LED set and some very special software, that's much better than flying all around the world looking for all these remote and exotic looking locations. But now we take VizRT and they're doing it kind of under the hood with a green screen studio, essentially, and that can bring it to more people. Now, what I'd love to see, and to Corey's point about customers, this is me wearing my integrator hat at the moment, 20 years ago to 15 years ago, we were all about CAD, and then BIM was coming out, and people started doing building modeling, and now we'll see projects where we have to BIM. It's not even an option. You have to BIM. CAD not accepted, or CAD only accepted for reference purposes. Final has to be BIM. Can we get to a point where someone puts out a software package that does a visualization similar to what VizRT is doing and produces CAD and BIM all in one shot, so I don't have to have 3 people working on these 3 different platforms to create the same end result? That would be pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I think that what you're alluding to is definitely attainable. I've seen and I've worked and played with Unreal Engine myself, and what you can do is really limitless in terms of what you can do with the visual scripting that's in Blueprints. You mentioned democratization, and I think that's the perfect word to use when talking about some of these technologies. Even a company like Unity, which is Unreal Engine's kind of competitor, they just recently bought Weta Digital, and Weta Digital has done visual effects for Lord of the Rings. They've done visual effects for Alita Battlefield, or Alita. What is it? Alita Angel. What is it called? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So many different movies, so many different films, and all of these tools now are going to become available within the Unity engine. They just bought the Mac back in December. So they're really trying to give people the power to be able to create these simulations and these visualizations and be able to utilize them in a way that's really going to allow them to just go off the rails in terms of their creativity, to go off the rails in terms of being able to do things better with humanity. A lot of these technologies are being used in healthcare. A lot of them are being used in education. A lot of them are being used for training simulations and so forth. So likewise with AV, I think we definitely have our place in space and can utilize these tools and these platforms as well. Absolutely.
Really quickly, King, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the episodes, King's also an incredible videographer, photographer, director of photography, and editor. And he has a YouTube channel that I subscribe to and I like. Did you not use Unreal Engine for one of those episodes to kind of recreate and almost restructure a couple of movie scenes?
I did use Unreal Engine for one of the last videos that I had put out. The one before that, I was using Maya.
Okay.
To kind of recreate. I think it was from what movie was it?
Was it Arrival? You used Maya for
Arrival? Yeah, it was Arrival. Yeah, so that was just kind of like using Maya itself and using the rendering from Maya to actually kind of create those scenes. But then I did something separate, which was actually all done inside of Unreal Engine.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, the software itself, I mean, here's the thing. I'm old enough to remember 20 years ago, there was a video game called Unreal, right? And that's kind of where this came from. It was kind of a first-person shooter. It was online. It was, anyhow. But that's where this kind of came from, and that was probably Unreal 1.0 or 0.5 or something,
Yeah, I think Tom Sweeney, I think, is for Epic Games. He's the one. I know he's the CEO, but I think he was the one who actually kind of put that together. That was like the late 90s, I think it was, maybe, or something. Yeah.
and now my kid plays Fortnite on the same engine. So, same guy, still lives in his parents' basement in North Carolina, I think. Not really. Don't. He's gonna sue me now. All right. Last story from our website. Zilliqa commits to net zero carbon emissions. Very interesting. Zilliqa announced this week that its commitment to decrease carbon emissions throughout its business to net zero and achieve climate neutral certified status. Mike, I'll start with you on this. Mike does a couple of different things in his life and in his world. One is Cavlo. It's a trade show. He's got another one coming up in May in Nashville. We'll talk about that in a second. So from that side or from the integrator side, it is environmental advocacy or environmental efficacy or the net zero drive. Is that something that you hear a lot about, either from your customers and your clients on the integration side or from your customers and clients on the trade show side that are looking to do the same thing on the manufacturers?
Yeah, not as much on the Cavlo side. As an integrator, it has calmed down a little bit. A few years ago, it was quite the buzzword because folks were chasing lead status, LEED,
Okay.
platinum or gold or silver or whatever. And when they're looking for points, they're looking to find them anywhere they can. There's a little bit we can do with audio amplifiers being more efficient than traditional. There's a little bit we can do with video, but generally speaking, the overall impact, the AV footprint of an entire building is relatively very small.
True.
A lot of the other systems and components of a building have a much more even outsized impact on their lead status. So we don't hear it that much anymore because even the ones where we did a little bit of cursory work, the building owner or the tenant lost interest because it was just such a small amount that it wasn't something they were going to focus on. I did find it interesting, and when I saw this article, I don't know much about offsetting carbon and getting credits and net zero and how do you actually calculate that. So I just started doing a little digging around and I'm not that much more educated now than I was before then. But it seems to be that Zilliqa is the only company that is making this push, at least in the LED, manufacturing world. So I'm super curious to find out, is it because it's that difficult? Is it because they just decided they were going to be the first? Is it because, again, it's a relatively insignificant thing to do? I don't know. I honestly just don't know. But it is now in my mind, which is I'm sure something Zilliqa counted on. And if I have a client with whom I'm doing some sort of video wall project and they're looking for, we want to offset, we want net zero or net minimum or, net low, whatever the case may be, it worked, right? So how, I'm not a climate or any kind of expert in this matter. So I couldn't tell you how effective they are being or how big a deal it really is. But if nothing else, if all they accomplished it was to let people know that they're making strides towards that, kudos to them.
Yeah. Corey, I have a couple of colleagues that I've met throughout the years that have done this in smaller ways, right? Or at least internally in their manufacturing places, without a whole lot of fanfare, and without a whole lot of traction. And there are some folks that are looking at things like packaging, right? And how we package AV gear. And let's be honest, so 30 years ago, there was a whole lot of styrofoam and plastic. And now not so much, right? More cardboard and things that are recyclable. But same kind of question that to Mike on for you in QSC. Are you hearing that? Are you getting a pull from your clients or even from their clients?
I mean, it comes up certainly, and I think the more it comes up, the more we all have to begin thinking about it. Because even if it is small, we keep adding small and small and small, we start to see real effects, I think. So we're looking at it in certainly in all areas. Tim, to your packaging, just kind of all of that certainly. But at the end of the day, if if cost is a factor, it quickly goes out the window, right? So it's like it may be of interest initially, and then soon as if there's a cost associated to it, the concerns tend to dwindle, on that. So it's like, I think we're just not 100% there yet, but I think that all of us in the industry should be thinking about sustainability, the environment, and all of those things. I mean, we've seen tremendous, waste, from customers, not saving the boxes. I mean, there's all these things, and yeah, they're small, but we need to begin thinking about every small change that we can do.
It's unfortunate that cost sometimes comes into the picture for these things, because I think that Exelica was just making a statement more than anything else. Like Mike was saying, like the footprint is really, really small. But I don't think you always necessarily need a business case to do the right thing. Yep. Sometimes you can just make it part of your mission. Like, this is something that we're going to do because we believe in it. And
it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do. And then I think oftentimes you'll have people who will follow you because you're doing the right thing, not necessarily because your product is necessarily any better or because it's cheaper or whatever the case might be, but because you align with their principles and their values, in terms of humanity, in terms of the client, in terms of the climate, and so forth. So, I think that Exelica is just making a statement. They're saying, hey, this is important to us. This is part of our mission as an organization, and this is how we're doing our small part. And everybody can kind of figure out what their small part in the AV industry can look like.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you all so much. Corey Schaefer, thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you or QSC?
So QSC.com, and you can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn as Corey Schaefer.
Akin Adewale from Barracks. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Tim. You can find me at my full name, Akintayo Adewale. That's my handle for pretty much everything. And then you can also check out my channel at becomingdope.com.
Yes, you should totally do that. And the 2 VR that we talked about is on there as well. So, Mike, thank you, sir. How do people? Let's talk about Kavlo. I mentioned the fact that you've got an event coming up in Nashville in the middle of May. So talk about that and how people connect with that, and maybe some of the places you might be going this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kavlo is a little regional pro AVL trade show that I created in 2020. It debuted last spring in Vegas. Thank you, QSC, for being an exhibitor. Then went to Texas last fall, and our next stop will be Nashville, May 11th. Yeah, it's a trade show. Booths and discussion panels and all of your favorite AV tweeps hanging around and finally seeing each other after 2 years of nothing but at home. And you can find out more about it at kavlo.tech. You'll find me on LinkedIn just by my name, Mike Brown Sestero, and on Twitter, Vegas_AV_ace.
Very good. For me, for Tim Albright, don't follow me on the Twitters because I'm still complaining about the Bears and their hires. That's all I'm going to say about that. That and go Browns, because anybody that's going to play the Rams. So I'm from St. Louis. Don't even at me, but all I got. Go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others, including our other weekly, Resi Week, hosted by my buddy Matt Scott, and a number of monthlies that look at different aspects of the industry. By the time you hear this, we already announced our winners of the annual AVNation Readers' Choice Awards. So congratulations to all the winners there. And it'll be another few months before we have to do that again. So I'm very thankful about that. But no, thanks everybody for voting the last month, and everybody, all the winners and everybody. So check all that out and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.